Now, I can understand that since Cliven Bundy works around a whole bunch of those bovines all the time, he's definitely gonna step in it from time to time, if you know what I'm saying. But I don't trust the race-baiting liberal media, and before I let them get back into my head and program me to accuse someone like Cliven Bundy of racism, I'd ask y'all to consider that it may not be the cow patties he's stepping in, but rather a mess of left-wing media donkey pudding all over his Bundy boots.
I think what's happening. Propaganda.
My friend Bob Parks put this video together showing what Cliven Bundy said and what the left-wing race-baiting media edited to manipulate your perception.
And so what I'm testifying to you, I was in the Watts riot. I seen the beginning fire and I seen that last fire. What I seen is civil disturbance. People are not happy. People are thinking they don't have their freedoms and don't have these things, and they didn't have them. We've progressed quite a bit from that day until now, and we sure don't want to go back. We sure don't want these colored people to have to go back to that point. We sure don't want these Mexican people to go back to that point. And we can make a difference right now by taking care of some of these bureaucracies and do it in a peaceful way. Let me talk to you about the Mexicans. But these are just things I know about the Negro. I want to tell you one more thing I know about the Negro. When I go through Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, and I would see these little government houses, and in front of that government house, the door was usually open, and the older people and the kids, and there's always at least a half a dozen people sitting on the porch. They didn't have nothing to do. They didn't have nothing for their kids to do. They didn't have nothing for their young girls to do. And because they were basically on government subsidy, and so now what do? They abort their young children. They put their young men in jail because they never learned how to pick cotton. And I've often wondered, are they better off as slaves, picking cotton, having family life and doing things, or are they better off under government subsidy?
Transfer. They just transferred it.
Yeah, they didn't get no more freedom. They got less freedom. They had less family alive, and their happiness, you can see in their faces, they weren't happy sitting on that concrete sidewalk. Down there, they were probably growing their turnips. So that's all government. That's not freedom. Now let me talk about the Spanish people. You know, I understand that they come over here against our Constitution and cross our borders. But they're here, and they're people. And I've worked side by side a lot of them. Don't tell me they don't work, and don't tell me they don't pay taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And don't tell me they don't have better family structures than most of us white people. When you see those Mexican families, they're together, they're picnicking together, they're spending their time together, and I'll tell you, in my way of thinking, they're awful nice people. And we need to have those people join us and be with us, not come to our party.
Okay, let's look at a few things. Cliven expressed the same sentiments as the Afrocentrics, and it ain't that hard to hear. We don't want to go back to the days of Jim Crow. Cliven clearly expressed those sentiments that he does not want blacks to see those days again. The ones standing in the way of blacks have always been the Democrat Party, and they use the government to do it. Whether it was a sour-faced Democrat like George Wallace standing in the way of schools to keep blacks from going in, or whether it's the fake teeth-gritting smile of modern Democrats that doesn't want the black student to leave the schools they used to try to keep them out of for privatized education. After all, the liberal public schools can't keep their black voter stock under control if they're attending private schools. Malcolm X said only a fool would let the enemy educate their children, and Democrats were the expressed enemy of Malcolm X, and he would be absolutely disgusted that the majority of the black community has allowed themselves to be hoodwinked into thinking that the Democrat Party is your friend. Now, I ain't saying Malcolm X was a Republican or that he had love for him, but he specifically loathed Democrats and liberals, and he would not be one today because he has already expressed the very thing he couldn't stand about them. And the liberal does today what they were doing back then that ticked him off. Patronize the black man, pander to him, all the while making black folks complacent as they control us. Malcolm hated that, and he was right to. But let's further consider Cliven Bundy. Cliven expressed a negative attitude towards blacks aborting their children. If Cliven didn't like black folks, he wouldn't care if they were being aborted, and he would encourage it. But because he states the truth to the effect that it is sad that blacks account for the most abortions, he's a racist? I mean, which is more racist? Cliven pointing out the sad reality of the high account of black kids being aborted, or the left-wingers of this country who make sure that blacks feel empowered to kill off their own kids in utero? The left is continuing on with the Democrat Margaret Sanger's stated objective to exterminate the Negro population, as the left is pro-abortion. But they're not racist, and Cliven Bundy is because he points out that this is a tragedy? The only difference today is that the Democrats want to control the Negro population more than exterminate them, because blacks equal votes to Democrats. That's why Lyndon B. Johnson stated his objective to have those N-words voting Democrats for the next 200 years. Yeah, but the Democrats has changed since then. Yeah. Looks like LBJ's strategy is working perfectly on you and doesn't seem to be losing steam even after 40 years into his 200-year plan. Lyndon B. Johnson takes the credit for the CRA and the VRA that the Republicans pushed through. The black community falls for the party switch shell game, mesmerized with a bunch of Democrat race baiting to make them lose track of the truth. And voila, LBJ's objective to maintain the black community as a voter stock is as strong as ever, more than 40 years later. And I'm the brainwashed sellout. Cliven expressed his dismay about blacks living in government housing. True, it's not as hard as living in a shack in shackles on a plantation waiting to get some grits and some pig necks for your labor, but nowadays those on government housings are shackled to a mailbox waiting for the 1st and the 15th, and this arrests their development. It deteriorates self-worth, and of course makes them ignore the value of others. That's why there's so much crime and abortions in the black community, as well as moms with 5 or more kids with different deadbeat daddies. The liberals insist on government provision. These provisions make you idle, and idle hands truly are the devil's playground. And where there's Democrats and the most government provisions, there's the places with the most idle hands. And there you will find many blacks in jail, on drugs, in gangs, etc. So Cliven wasn't giving a nod to slavery. He was shaking his head that too many American blacks have traded one set of shackles for another, to their own peril. And the fact that the state is trying to fit us all with shackles is in very plain sight. Anyway, as I listened to the video, the one the liberal media didn't put out there, I didn't detect that deep-seated hatred for Mexicans that Cliven Bundy is supposed to have neither. It's sad that so many Hispanics vote for the Democrat Party who institute policies that are in conflict with many Hispanics concerning life, family, marriage, faith, and so on. But all Democrats had to do was accuse Republicans of racism, and the Hispanic vote became theirs. And the brilliant plan of the establishment Republicans is to pander to Hispanics for their votes. I hope Republicans will someday hear me after me saying this for so many years. If you're gonna pander for votes, you might as well be a Democrat. We will not be a better country for pandering to people for their votes. 2, it's so painfully obvious that the most effective weapon the Democrats have against Republicans is the race issue. Republicans, the racism that America is still butthurting over and will not let go of is the racism that is burned and scarred into the culture that is infamous the world over, the racism that was instituted by the Democrat Party for over 140 years. The Republicans went to war against the Democrats to end slavery in the 1860s, and the Republicans defeated Democrats and institutionalized racism in the 1960s. The Republicans fought the Democrat KKK, their cross burnings and their lynchings, and stopped them. But America is still to this very day bitter over racism, the racism instituted by the Democrat Party. But Democrats have taken the issue they're responsible for and now use it to manipulate people and get them to hate you. Republicans whine about the race card being used against them, yet don't seem to grasp how effective the race baiting strategy is and totally take for granted that this is the Democrats' main weapon. If it is so easy to manipulate people with race baiting, you would think that Republicans would concentrate on exposing the Democrats for the manipulating race baiters they are, who are responsible for all the racism America is bitter over, and totally kneecap them, instead of doing some fake move to pander to Hispanics, which is a total insult to them. It is an insult to immigrants who come here legally to make this country the beautiful and colorful nation it is. And two, by doing this, it grows government and diminishes the free spirit that people want to come to America for. America is the best thing that ever happened to immigration. But if you handle immigration liberally, it will be wasted away. But if you handle it conservatively, our country will better sustain for others to make a legal, responsible migration here. That's what being a conservative is about. The conservation, so as to maintain, protect, and keep for prolonged enjoyment. I'm Alfonso Rachel for Zone Nation, and Clive and Bundy is just another example of how liberals will use race baiting to sucker people into giving more power to the state. Donkey pudding.